Get ready for Real Talk with Pasha B in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Real Talk with Pasha B. Today's podcast, we're going to be talking about blacks and guns. And I am joined by no other than...
I prefer the term African American. Hi, this is Sheneka. Welcome to another episode of Real Talk with Pasha B. Pasha, how are you?
I'm all right.
Wonderful. I'm African American today.
That's awesome. And you're black every other day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to be contrary, that's all.
That's fine.
Yeah. Also joining us today, we have Jason. Welcome, Jason.
Hey, how you doing?
Wonderful. Jason has recorded with us before, and Pasha.
What?
This is bothering me.
So you interrupt.
Hey, they get it all. This is blooper reel and everything. So yeah, So anyway, Jason is joining us for another episode of Real Talk with Pasha B. We welcome Jason back. He also brought along a friend, Joshua. Joshua, how are you today?
Doing well. Pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. Pasha, go ahead and kick it off.
All right, so we're just going to actually jump into it talking about the Second Amendment. So we do know that the first 10 amendments of the Constitution is called the what?
Bill of Rights.
Bill of Rights. The men were quiet.
Bill of Rights. I had heard of that thing they called the Bill of Rights. I didn't know the first 10 actually made that up. So I did learn something new today. Thank you.
We are expounding minds.
I'm just trying to pay that bill.
He's just trying to pay that bill. The Second Amendment, what that says is, and this is a direct quote, it says, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So let's talk about it. Hearing what that amendment actually says, how do you feel about it? What do you feel about it?
Just kind of confused. I don't know why there's gun laws if the bill says it.
Josh was confused.
I'll say this. When you look at American history at the time and how much chaos went into building this country, you kind of think of it like, okay, it kind of makes sense. Like, this country was built pretty much by foreign invaders. And the people who made that amendment were like, you know what happens if someone foreign invades us? How are we going to protect ourselves?
Right.
So it kind of made sense. When you think about it, like, well, we don't want that thing to happen to us.
Right.
Let's go ahead.
We did it.
Yeah, we did it. So who's to stop someone else from coming and taking what we took? So yeah, we need this, we need to protect ourselves from somebody who wants some retaliation. Why not?
Or the people.
There you go.
And I'm going to throw a little extra in this pot. One of the things I was reading, and I picked this up from the Washington Post, they were talking about, as Jason mentioned, the time period in which this law came about, this amendment came about. And when you talk about well-regulated militias, back then, and I'm just going to quote the Washington Post, they said the main purpose of militias in the North and South during the 17th and 18th century was to suppress slave rebellions. Militia's sole responsibility in peacetime was to patrol local slave quarters for possible signs of subversion. Runaways, for the SAT word, subversion. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they also went on to say the right to bear arms was the right of white men to exercise authority over black men and women by violent means if necessary, and their right to a well-regulated militia was the right to do so in large groups. Mm-hmm. So, in hearing that, and also taking into consideration the time period, how do you feel about that as it relates to gun ownership now, and maybe even the residual effect psychologically in black people owning guns? I'm sorry, we African American today?
I'm black.
African American, blacks, whatever you are, owning guns now.
Wakanda forever.
What you think?
Well, we know. Well, I'm not going to say we know. The laws are outdated. Okay, so they were developed at a certain time to control a certain type of people. So to have these laws now being imposed and used in 2018 is absolutely absurd.
I totally agree. I do think the law is outdated. I do think there needs to be a lot of updates. But given the historical context of what you said, I don't know, maybe the Native Americans who rebelled, the blacks who rebelled, maybe the John Browns and Harriet Tubmans had them shook. Like, oh, they kill him? They shooting back? We got to do something about this. Makes sense.
Okay.
And how do you think it affects, as far as the residual psychological effects in black people owning guns now? Because the vast majority, so when you, the statistics you mentioned was 49% of whites and 32% of blacks.
Off air, I was going to get to that on air.
Oh, my bad. Anyway, so say that again. What are your statistics, Pasha? Could you go ahead and repeat that?
I will. Thanks, Sheneka.
You're welcome.
Pew's research information from April 2017 indicated that that a total of 42% of adults in households own firearms. And of that 42%, 49% were white, 32% were black, and 21% were Hispanic.
Gotcha. So given those numbers, and that's just a percentage, so when you actually break it down to raw numbers, which I did some calculations. Because sometimes I think when we're talking about percentages, it kind of gets skewed. So I looked up the census. This is from the 2010 census. Of the number of white people in the United States is 196 million. And as far as black people, it's 37 million. So when you look at 49%, that's over 96 million white people own guns. And only 11 million black people own guns. So the difference is 84 million. So when you're saying 49% versus 32%, it sounds kind of close, but when you actually break it down as far as the number of the population, that's a big, big difference. And that's just people. That's not even the number of weapons that they own.
Well, I do, before anybody comments, just so that we're dealing with the true picture. Your data's from 2010. This was from 2017, and off air we did talk about historical events that have happened in between that time, which would be the election of President Obama and the re-election of President Obama, to the point where different venues skewed the data. And I say this to say, so I read some reports that between 2008 and 2016, there was a large influx of Caucasians gun ownership, and increase to that. Sounds like they were trying to get prepared for something, right?
Right.
So then 2016 to the election of the current president, 45. You heard me say 45. We don't say the name. It's 45. The statistics now, or some statistics show that black ownership has increased because of the direct result of the election that happened last year. So just want to keep that out there in the open as well. But I do agree that historically the laws and the rules have been to kind of regulate the minority at the time, to kind of keep structure and order of those people. Just to segue, the Bible, and I know I'm going to hear it from some people. I don't know what the original context of the Bible was, because it has been rewritten about 49 million times, right? And what I do know is historically that there has been rulings of different bodies of people, and the text is always manipulated to influence and manipulate other people, right? I say that because I don't know what the original text of the Bible said, and whether you agree or disagree, I don't know. I just believe this New King James Version. It's not what the original content said.
Do they have guns back there? Where you going with this, Pasha? Bring me up.
Just like the rules and the regulations in the 1700s don't apply to what's going on currently now. And when they were written, it was used as a tool to manipulate the people who were not in control. That was my parallel.
Oh,
stay with me. I bring it around. I bring it full circle. But that's me. So
that is you, Pasha. Carry on.
Oh no, no, we're off of me. We're off. Okay.
So I do want to jump in about what you said as far as election year. So one thing that was noted is gun sales typically increase during election years. I guess some folks are fearful that their guns are going to be taken away. And there was a significant contrast because the sales to whites has actually decreased significantly, and it's increased for Black people during the current administration. So there is something to be said for that. And I guess the question is, why do you think that? So do you think Black people are now scared? Because one of the things I think most people can acknowledge with this current administration, it is a very hostile, it's just a hostile administration. And I think it has definitely had a ripple effect on just the citizens, everyday citizens throughout the United States and throughout the world as far as how we operate. So do you think minorities or Black people or women are more fearful because of that? Do you think the revolution about to go down? I mean, what you think?
Pose that to the guys.
Guys, fellas, do you think the revolution about to go down?
Revolution, no. I think I'll say this. Let's look at what happened over the summer of 2017 was that Charlottesville, Virginia?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, somebody...
Tiki Torch.
Yeah, Tiki Torch people, the alt-right, the KKK, the neo-Nazis, they found common interests now. They unite. They're grabbing their guns. They already got their guns because they bought them during the Obama administration. So it makes perfect sense to see those type of, resistances and for Black people to respond in kind. I think, historically speaking, we've seen what happens when, angry white people who are racist get together and, tear stuff up. We saw that with the Klan back in the 1900s to the 1940s. At one point in time, we were 4 million strong.
2018.
Still doing it.
Right. I mean, their numbers are significantly lower. What I'm saying is but they almost had a lot of people don't know this. They almost had a reality show on A&E. At the beginning of last year, but it got canceled. Long story, but it was supposed to be about showing someone leaving the Klan and what they have to do to leave and get out of it, and it wasn't supposed to glorify them. But the fact that
to get out of the Klan, it's like you got to get jumped out,
it's like a game,
like the Bloods and the Crips.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But it was supposed to be based off of families that are trying to get their family members out of the Klan. Like, look, this ain't right. It's like y'all don't need to be messing with these people, blah blah blah, and how they indoctrinate people and keep their numbers strong and growing. Wow. So at the end of the day, to me, to make a long story short, let's bring it back around. It makes perfect sense for Black people to be buying guns because we could see something like that happening on the horizon again, because we saw it happening on the horizon when that dude ran over 3 or 4 people and killed one lady. So,
Jason, love you. Stop hitting the table.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, at the end of the day, to me, it just makes sense.
Okay, Joshua.
To me, it's more of a revolution may take place. Probably something bigger than us all. To me, I look at it almost like population control. I don't want to say too much, but somebody's playing.
You about that whole conspiracy theory? I'm with you.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but based on what he said, like to
reality theorist.
Carbon dioxide or whatever, with the ozone layer, you have to focus on vaccines, and one of them, more importantly, was population. And if you notice, white people don't kill each other. Black people, we kill each other. Like you say, we're always.
I disagree with that.
Black, we kill each other.
But I think everybody kill each other. I think white folks kill each other too.
But in the masses, though, like as far as like,
well, when you look at when you look at, are you talking about mass and the amount of casualties at a time, or are you talking about consistent incidences happening? Because I think the narrative is guided based upon the source that you're getting it from. Maybe we're always just seeing Black people killing each other because that's what the powers that be want us to see. Hello. But if you look at the mass shootings, I'm sorry, they're not Black people. Sheneka, off air, we talked about, I think you sent me, was either a meme or a joke, why Black kids don't go into a school and shoot up the school. You know what? Because they got that act right. That's what it is. Right. You know what I'm saying? You have, unfortunately, people of other colors who thinks that it's okay to go into a school, because what happened in Florida, go into a school and kill people. For what?
And I want to add, not just, because I don't think it's necessarily that act right.
Is act right.
Anyway, I also think, how about that? And I also think, just in delving a little deeper, when we retaliate, it's very targeted. So I have beef with you, so I'm coming to kill you, not shoot up the school. So I think that's also something that's taking place in our neighborhoods versus some of the other neighborhoods where they're going shooting up schools.
I call that act right.
I don't know about that. That's not act right, because look at how often we see in the black community a stray bullet hits a kid that wasn't the intended target.
But I say that because that could be true. But again, you need to be careful of the source that you're getting your news from. Like if you don't see that majority of the media is geared to put a certain perception in your head.
I've known that for a while, and I totally agree.
So,
but nonetheless, you can't ignore the fact that it actually happened.
Oh, absolutely.
So, the media can't put a gun in your hand and make a stray bullet kill a kid. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. At the end of the day, we got to take some accountability for our own. And, we don't see mass shootings by black kids, but we do see drive-bys by black kids. So, it's not better. It's just different. You know what I'm saying? I think we need to have, you know what? Maybe this might sound like a little left field, but I've always wondered, where are these guns coming from? How are these guns getting in the hands of these kids who are like 15, 16, 17, like these gangbangers who doing drive-bys who are like babies? Who's giving them these guns? Where do they come from? Because people always, like, back to what you said about how black people are always in the media as the bad guys and the villains. But we don't own none of the gun manufacturing spots. We don't own Beretta. We don't own Glock. We don't own Springfield. We don't own none of them.
Mm-hmm. So and usually we don't have the resources to buy them.
Cocaine came from.
Ding, 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 ding.
It's being planted.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, let's look. That's what I really want to know. Like, who's putting the guns in the hands of these kids? That's something nobody wants to talk about for some reason.
And they're not going to talk about it, because if you talk about it and you bring it up, like if responsible parties bring it up and you talk about it, then you also have to be responsible for making a change and fixing the issue. And we've seen for a very long time that from levels of government coming on down, there have been some shady dealings that have been going on, whether it be in the country or outside of the country. And it's kind of the dirt is done and then they walk away from it. So if we were to talk about it and bring it up, then somebody has to be responsible for fixing it. And I'm not quite sure that we live in a society that's going to happen.
I'm not sure we live in a society that actually gives a damn. That's the problem. I think most people are so caught up into, like, these politicians are so caught up into the image and looking good. They don't really care about actually doing any investigative homework to fix the problem. So, yeah.
Okay.
I want to bring something up. So I read this, and it's a little lengthy, but I think it's definitely in alignment with what you're saying, Jason. So basically, this is from The Atlantic, and it's called White Male Privilege. And in Australia, I guess they have very stringent gun laws. And this is essentially a quote from a white American male that immigrated from the U.S. to Australia. And he says that when he immigrated there, he felt something was odd. He felt something was missing. And he said he realized it was the absence of fear. He said, no matter how mad someone got at me, no one was going to shoot me. Guns can't be regulated in the U.S. because of violence. It's necessary to maintain the fear. And the fear is necessary to maintain white male privilege. The idea that white men can and do shoot people causes every interaction with the white man to carry a tinge of threat. When they say 24 dead children is the price we pay for freedom, what they mean is they are willing to pay that price to preserve white male privilege. And I thought, I pulled this up this morning, so I've been kind of wishing it around a bit just to kind of see how I feel about that, because when you have the Parkland shootings that happened and the Sandy Hooks that happened, you have the movie theater in Colorado or what have you. You have people, and in some cases, little children getting shot up, and citizens are asking for tougher gun control measures, and it seems like the powers that be are not receptive to that. And when you look at the lobbyists and who is paying,
it's bad business.
It is. It's
bad for business.
It's bad business. And then you have to ask yourself, why is it, like I said, why is it so necessary to have these laws in place?
It's bad for business. Bottom
do you
line.
think that's the point, though, as far as...
It's not the point for the people, but it's for the point for the powers that be. It's bad for business.
Do you think it's necessary, based on what this person is saying, that white men have a need to maintain a certain level of control or fear from everyone else? Because historically, they have been the ones in power.
I think it's actually a much more broader issue than just white male privilege. I think it's really more about population control. I think it's about keeping the powers in people that are at the top right now, staying at the top. Like the 1%ers, like we already know how this works. Politics and money are drawn in together. You know, if you got $500,000 or, $500 million in the bank with political ties, you're one of the people that run this country. So why would they give a damn about the people in Florida? That's not them. Nobody in Washington, D.C.'s kids got shot. No one shot at one of the Trumps. No one shot at one of these senators. No one shot at them. So they can sit back.
Actually, someone did. What was that, last year or the year before at the little golf thing in Virginia? Yeah,
but they handled that, though.
It was handled?
I mean, has it happened? It happened it happened one time. It's happening all over the country to people who are in the middle class and other places all the time. Look how many people have been getting shot. Like, how many people, like somebody in this room, right? Just us. We all know at least one person that's been shot and killed by gun violence, personally.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, that's a new experience to the 1%ers, the people who actually run the country. Their daughters, they're not at the schools that get shot. Their sons are not at the colleges that get shut up like Virginia. They're not at these places. Harvard ain't never been shot up. Yale ain't never been shot up. So they don't have to worry about it. So why should I? Why should I get involved with the peasants? That's their problem.
Peasants.
I'm just saying, that's the way I look at it.
Joshua, you have anything to add to that?
Not really. It's crazy, like you say. I mean, I still think it's population control. I still think we're killing each other. Like you say, with the numbers, you have a large number where, somebody goes and does a mass killing to where it's, 16 or 20 people. But black people, if you look at how many of us die each day by a gun, it's just ridiculous. So, that's about it.
Okay.
So I want to add real quick to that population control because, and I don't want to keep making this a black-white issue. I'm just offering a different perspective. But in looking at the census numbers from 2000 to 2010, often people talk about, preserving, the white class or whatever. Their numbers have gone down like almost 12%. So in 2000, they made up 75% of the population. In 2010, they make up 63% of the population. So I thought that was, that just caused me to raise an eyebrow as to why they may hold a certain position. Their numbers are going down. Hispanics are going up significantly. Theirs increased by 4%. And all the while, blacks just remain consistent. We're at that 12, 13% consistently over decades. Yeah. So, keep having them babies, blacks.
All right. So,
is that because we don't fill out the census form that they send in the mail?
Well, that could be. That is a variable I didn't think about.
That could be. Because black folks got a fear of getting on the radar.
That's
rightfully so. And rightfully so.
So now, since we talked about the background population, let's talk about little things personal to us or experiences that we can kind of dip and dab in regards to how, if you have the owner of a firearm, do you actually open carry do you carry concealed? And then why do you do that? And then the vice versa. How do you feel? Because certain states only, and doing the research, there is a large percentage of states that do not allow open carrying versus the ones that do. And I think from a standpoint of numbers, there is about 7 states that does not allow open carrying or prohibits open carrying of handguns. Open carrying of handguns. Denver, Colorado, just that city, but the rest of Colorado, you can actually open carry. DC, you cannot open carry. Florida, you cannot open carry, but there are some exceptions if you're hunting or fishing. Illinois, New Jersey, New York, and South Carolina. Right? So there's more states.
You don't have Cali? I have Cali on mine too.
California will allow for you to open carry.
Really?
Yep. Well, let's go to... that's the data that I pulled up from gunstocarry.com. If the data's wrong, then they're wrong. Shit, I'm just reporting the news. But
California was one of the ones I consistently saw showing up. California, Florida, and Illinois not allowing for open carry across the board.
This information is updated as of 2018. So California may have made a change. Okay. But
that would be interesting for Cali because they used to have a gangbang problem.
Well, even though the state may allow open carry, it's still based upon local, judicial laws. So there could be variances in certain areas where they don't allow the open carry.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So,
interesting.
Do any of us open carry?
No, I conceal carry. I have a permit to allow me to carry a gun legally in 22 states because we get a permit in Georgia. It just allows you for other places around the United States. But I have no interest in open carrying because I don't want to make myself a target. I don't want people to see me like what that guy got a gun for. Because I don't know. Maybe it's just me calling me crazy for being a black man in America. I would hate to fit the description of something that just went down. In an area, robbery or shooting or something. Well, hey, that guy who just left Target fit the description and he had a gun on him. So call the cops on it. Now I got a whole legal situation I got to get out of. And, I might have been just trying to buy some popcorn or something and go home and watch some movies. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But the fact that I had a gun on me changed my whole day up. Now I got to talk to police. So, yeah, conceal carry. You ain't going to see my gun if I got it on me.
Okay.
I conceal carry as well.
What?
No, I'm just being funny. I don't have a weapons permit, but I want one, and I'm going to get one. That's my goal of 2018 to get my permit and a weapon. But some of the feedback that we got was a lot of people do conceal carry. I know some of the law enforcement personnel that responded made a point of not wanting, to your point, Jason, to be a target.
Right.
So even if somebody has ill intention, whether the average Joe on the street, they can come and take your weapon from you. So when you look at, people out here who criminals or whatever, they're not legally going to purchase weapons. They may come knock you over the head and take your weapon because you're open carrying,
True.
So just knowing that, or just putting it out there that they have a weapon on them. Most people don't open carry; they conceal carry. What you got, Pasha?
So I did have to go back and I'm going to say that this website probably did provide me with bad information because California does look like open carry. It says no with or without a permit. Open carry is not legal even with a permit in the state of California. So I will not use this website ever again. But with that, because they making me look bad. But with that being said, I do have a concealed permit. I currently do not own a gun. I have. And I have never open carried.
And why, Pasha?
I don't think I'm trying to have attention brought to me in that manner.
Right.
So
makes sense.
I know one of the respondents made a comment about just their feelings about people who open carry. And she said she believes that it's a lady and she has a weapon permit and she carries conceal carry. She said that she believes there are people who are fearful. They're just scared. And they use it as a deterrent to other people. They're scared and open carry. And I guess the perception is, don't try me. I personally feel, and I hope I'm not stepping on anybody's pinky toe. I think some people, not everybody, some people get a hard on for it. You feel like you big and bad. So you will walk around and show your weapon.
It's a sign of power to some people. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's totally a power move. Yeah.
Especially ones who walk around with the big long rifles on their back, strapped across the back. Where you going? Why are you in the restaurant with the long rifle? Why are you walking down the street if you're not hunting something? And you see a lot of this on TV with people just challenging the laws, to see what a cop's going to say. It's a dig. I dare you to say something to me. Because by law, they can't even ask you if you have a permit because you're not breaking the law. So you have people who will test the system by just showing up with their weapon just to see if the cop says anything.
It's not a good idea nowadays.
Well, it's
unless
definitely
you have a death wish.
Or unless you have, if your skin tone is the right color.
Right.
Maybe not.
Because open carrying, I'm not sure how many. Georgia was a very new experience to me when I moved to Georgia in 2006. We went to the Chick-fil-A. It probably was on Ponce. I don't even remember where it was, but I mean not Chick-fil-A, Krispy Kreme on Ponce. And it was a black dude. I think he just got off a motorcycle. He was strapped up out there in the open. And coming from Florida, I'm like, well, is he about to start shooting? Like, did I just walk into, is this the bad part of Atlanta? That's what I thought. Unbeknownst to me at that time, Georgia is a state where you can open carry. So I think depending on, and not to, again, make it white or black issue, but I think you get different looks at if you're black. And I think you get not so many looks if you're white.
Imagine in 2018, open carrying and you happen to be Muslim.
Oh, that would be.
Yeah, that's gonna make life pretty hard for you.
I think we'll all check ourselves. I'm serious. I think we all would.
Well, I'm checking regardless. I personally don't like the open carry. I think it changes the atmosphere. It just changes the atmosphere. So when a person walks in, regardless, I think there are certain things that's going to contribute to our how heightened our senses get. But when someone walks in, period, with a weapon shown, it automatically changes the environment.
It does, but if let's say Jason had invited, let's say Joshua came in here and he open carried, I think initially it would kind of be, oh damn, but that would quickly fade. No, I'd still be sitting here like, well, damn, dog, what we gonna do? Like, what you doing?
You know what? I really do think, and this is one of the reasons I limit myself on how much news I watch. I think we've been like primed or conditioned to look at certain people a certain way. The reason I made brought up the Muslim comment was because, like, you see someone in what they call those, what do they call it? A job. Yeah, so you see someone in the Muslim gear and they look like, somebody who might be on their way to their church or the mosque or whatever. And they happen to take advantage of the open carry laws. You're going to look at them different than if you see a regular white guy with the open carry. Any guy is going to, it's just, we've been conditioned to look at things a certain way.
And just on that note,
that's just what it is.
I would not, because
I wouldn't personally. But
statistically, you need to be more concerned about the fairer skinned person than the Muslim person.
No, I'm not disagreeing with that sentiment. What I'm saying is, when we look at the context of who we see doing what in this country, when we look at the media, we've been conditioned to think a certain way, I believe.
They're trying to program us.
Right. You're going to look at a black dude with a hoodie on in an open carry different than you're going to look at a white dude in a business suit open carrying. Then you look at someone that's Muslim and jihad open carry. You're going to look at those three people differently. One's going to get the cops called on him. One's going to get profiled and walked and followed everywhere he goes throughout wherever he is. And the other person is going to get left the hell alone. That's where we are in America in 2018.
Are you saying
you want to acknowledge it or not?
Are you saying the other person is just going to be, or it's going to be said that, they're exercising their Second Amendment?
Thank you. Yes, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Jason, sorry, Joshua, you had something that you wanted to say.
Yeah, I just feel we've been brainwashed as far as religion, skin tone, anything. Like you were saying, more Muslims, I remember in history it was taught to me like there's two different kinds of Muslims, and a lot of people don't know that. You got the Shiite, which are very violent or back in history, and then the Sunni, which are more of the peaceful type of Muslims. So if you look at more religion, it's just another type of brainwash to me. More, I think the biggest concern is like with the gun carrying is taught about lightly. I think there needs to be some type of psychological test, whether that person can own a gun. Like even when it comes to like these police killings, I'm like, do they even test their psychological
You're right.
strength?
Right. And I 100% agree with that, because you only get your rights revoked when you have a psychological break and you've been deemed unfit to carry. And I'm talking about even from a civilian standpoint. Like there are certain states, if you get arrested or hospitalized for X, Y, and Z, you then lose your right to carry a gun.
Right.
But they're not concerned about your psychological state before they give you one.
Right.
I don't know if you know the answer to this, but how would they find that out?
I think there should be there's a Center for Disease Control, there's hospitals, there's polygraph tests for security
Chemical
clearances.
Yeah.
We could easily have something in America where you could have to go to this checkpoint before you get a gun. That's not unfeasible, because I look at the things I had to go through just to get a concealed carry permit. I had to go to the police station, had to go to the courthouse, then back to the courthouse.
Yeah.
And one of those checkpoints could have been a mental evaluation checkpoint. Why not?
Well, you're asking how do they that's one of the questions that you're asked first and foremost. And then if you are probably
as far as verifying?
No.
Because to my knowledge, and I don't know if anything has changed, but there isn't like a database where
there isn't, because
law enforcement can go.
It's HIPAA. It's HIPAA.
Yeah.
So they ask the question.
No, I'm talking about as far as carrying a concealed weapon. They don't pull up and say, "Oh yeah, you have a
they're
permit."
Depending on the state.
Okay.
It's not national, but some states do, and I think the state of Rhode Island. One of the states that I was reading, they do every permit that's granted. They do actually keep a record and they send it to, don't get me to lie, but they do condense that information. So no, from a national standpoint, no, it has to be, because even though you have national laws, you still have the state laws and the city and county laws that need to be followed. But you were asking in regards to how do they know? They don't know. But if the police is ever involved, then that's how they could possibly know, especially if there's a firearm involved, you're showing a weapon, things of that nature. So it's kind of like on the honor system, I guess.
There's a registry of things for like legal gun owners. But I don't remember a psych eval of any kind being asked of me when I got my permit.
Even the registry of gun owners, you can go and buy a gun and register a gun and you still don't have to have a permit in certain states.
This is true.
So
I remember I think I could buy a shotgun.
Yep.
And a like semi-automatic weapon like an AR-15 in Tennessee. Same day, it just had to fill out a little bit of paperwork or whatever. And the guy who was about to try to sell it to me, I was just, checking guns out. He even looked at me like, yeah, I know, but it's kind of a crazy law. I'm like, wow. So I could go shoot up school this afternoon, basically, is what you're telling me.
Right.
All right.
So you could wake up in the morning, not own a gun, go to the gun store, not even buy a handgun, buy a semi-automatic or some other type of...
That was the weird part. You had to go through a background check or something to buy a handgun.
Right.
A less powerful weapon.
Right.
you had to go through
the rigmarole.
Right.
Because I did see that it was broken down to some of the laws where it said handgun, long gun, right? So the long gun, and I'm assuming that that's the shotguns and the AR-15s and things of that nature. Based upon what I saw, it was easier to obtain, or you did not, just like Jason said, or you didn't need a permit for a long gun, but you needed a permit for a handgun. So you can ride around in your pickup truck with your long gun.
Duck hunting and deer hunting.
With your long gun behind you. And that's possibly why some of these laws are the way that they are, because for certain areas, hunting and fishing and wildlife is a means of business for certain states.
Right.
So we're not going to hinder on that, or we're not going to cripple that type of economy or people getting money that way. So we're going to make it easier for them to have shotguns and walk into Dick's and get a damn shotgun if you can buy one. But for a handgun, you get put through all of, well, we need to do a background check. We need to hold it. You know, we got to hold it for 7 days, and then you got to come back and all this kind of stuff.
Because you can conceal it.
Because you can conceal it.
Right. That's the science behind it.
Okay. So let's talk about the demographics of gun owners. We do know, or if you don't know, female gun ownership has been on the rise. And I would like to ask the men, how do you feel? What do you feel about that?
It's sexy.
I'm scared.
Oh!
I'm scared for it.
I like it when I'll say this in the world we live in. I think it's safe to assume that people do horrible things to women on all 7 continents. Self-defense is something, I totally understand when a woman takes that seriously. If I can't be around, I feel more comfortable knowing that I'm, my woman like, hey, I'm gonna back up, dog. My chick will shoot you.
Okay.
That's kind of a turn on for me. It doesn't bother me one bit because, I don't feel threatened. I'm not going, I never hit a woman, never beat one. I never assaulted a woman, so I'm not in fear of, it don't bother me one bit.
Right.
So it's sexy. If you pack a gun, let's go to the range together, baby. There's some targets.
Okay, so Jason's seeing it as extracurricular activity, and Joshua is kind of seeing it as
scary.
Explain why.
I mean, just from a population standpoint, and correct me if I'm wrong, I remember Queen Elizabeth. Mm-hmm. She was like one of the most brutal rulers in history. So it's like, when you look at a being that's more of led by emotion, I understand there's a lot of... I understand there's a lot of logical females, but the majority, I like to use the 1/3 rule, are not that logical.
My good eye acting up.
I say this.
Save them, Jason. Save them.
I just say this. I'm a statistics guy for the most part. None of these mass shootings have been women.
Yeah.
Not one of them. The only time you've heard of shootings done by women is when there's like a revolution or some upheaval going on. Harriet Tubman, free slave, she packed a gun. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with that. Women over in places like when Afghanistan and Syria, when they were getting invaded by ISIS and all them, some of the women carried guns. Mm-hmm. But there was never, last I checked, been any mass shootings by any women. I'm just saying.
Or any drive-bys. Women
don't do drive-bys.
You usually hear women...
It's targeted.
It's targeted.
It's targeted.
If a woman shooting at you, it's personal every single time.
It's because Jody ain't doing what he was supposed to be doing. So, in this time, in this day and time, you may be better off with a woman having your back with a gun versus a man.
Absolutely.
Possibly. I don't know. But I do have some information about the rise of, especially Black women gun ownership. So the National African American Gun Association, which is, I'm going to say the comparison of NRA, even though the NRA is national and it does fall under a gamut of diverse people in that particular gun club. The National African American Gun Association is diverse as well, but they do specifically cater towards African Americans. their membership has grown from 800 to 20,000 within the last couple of years. That's about since 2015. And unlike the primarily white male NRA association, the National African American Gun Association is diverse with both males and females and genders, but 60% of their population are actually women.
Mm-hmm. And when I read that statistic, I know it said that Black women are almost 3 times more likely. Well, I'm sorry, not more likely, but gun ownership almost 3 times higher than that of white women. So I asked myself, why? Why is that? And one of the things that I concluded is that you have white men in the household more so with white women than a Black male or a male being in the household with a Black woman, because the white men are the ones who have the guns. So if they're the ones who are registered with the gun and the woman is in the household, the need for her to register, she may not feel the need to carry herself.
Because he's protecting the household.
Whereas with Black females, where we had the household at a much higher rate, and when you take into consideration having to protect themselves from whatever's going on in this world, period. Also with dating and dealing with men coming in and out, potentially out of the household, they feel the need to protect themselves. I know there was a meme that's constantly circulating on social media that says, teach your daughters how to shoot because a restraining order is just a piece of paper. You know, so...
Amen. Totally agree.
I think that contributes significantly to why Black women are on the rise.
Was that meme race specific or no?
I will say the person in the meme was not a person of color.
Okay,
but I don't think that takes away from the message, because I think even with Black women experiencing
just asking
violence or whatever across the board. Restraining order.
Gotcha.
Don't stay 300 yards away.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Can I change it? I like y'all having guns now.
Okay. Joshua's now on our side.
We have a believer. Wakanda forever.
So one of the bases of this podcast was to specifically, and this one in general was specifically to kind of bring to light the rights that African Americans may not be aware of, or the options when it comes to gun ownership. Talking behind the scenes, knowing the Second Amendment, whether it be front to backwards, in reverse or whatever, can possibly or will not save your life. Let's just say that. But it could possibly be the situation of where you make an informed decision based upon an environment that you're in. Meaning, if you're going to carry a gun, learn what the rights are, or your rights are in that certain jurisdiction, because they differ from state to state. There are federal laws, and then there are state laws. So you need to be aware of that. You need to be aware of when you can open carry and when you can't open carry. You also need to be aware of how other people feel if you decide to open carry.
I don't care about your feelings. It's not my rights.
And if that's the standpoint that you want to take on it, that's fine. But there is a stigma for people, whether you are African American or whether you are Muslim. For the non-white people, there's a stigma that comes behind open carrying. And you need to be aware of that. And not aware of that as a deterrent, but you need to be aware of that as power so you understand what is happening around you. That's all.
I have a question. How do you think the civil rights era with Martin Luther King impact Black folks carrying, period, or even owning guns? The whole nonviolent movement. How do you think that has impacted us?
I think we've gotten that, and this is just me, I think we've gotten that out of our system.
You think so?
I think so.
What do you think, Joshua?
I still don't have a gun. I feel like if you have one, you eventually going to have to use it. Eventually I probably will have a gun with these days and times, just for more protection. But I've always been a peaceful guy. And
you hear that tone in his voice?
He's trying to sound all sexy over there.
Joshua, we are not going to have any problems. We are non-confrontational.
What do you think of, and I'll say even with all the mass shootings, because also another conversation I hear, especially with Black people, they always talking about Black people always hoping and praying every time something happens. We hoping and praying, as opposed to using the same, I'll say, weapons or force or whatever thing that is to fight back. And I just wondered, something just popped in my mind. Do you think that there's a residual effect of this whole nonviolence movement, or even let me make myself less threatening to the mainstream America? So I'm not going to carry because I know you're already fearful of my existence. So let me just make myself less threatening by not open carrying.
You know what? I honestly think we learned something from the civil rights era, and that might be part of the reason why we're more open to carry guns now. I mean, Martin Luther King was the most peaceful guy on the planet, and he still died an extremely violent death. They put his brains on a sidewalk in broad daylight in front of the world to see it. I think we learned from that. So yeah, we saw what happened when we come with peace. They don't understand that. They don't want that. You want us packing guns now. You want us to defend ourselves. You want to put us in a position where if you come for us, we're ready for you. I think we learned from it. That's my take on it.
And just to wrap that up, I think from a statistical standpoint, with the increase in gun ownership, I think we've seen that that's not the case anymore. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, whether it's Jason's reason, whether it's Joshua's reason of not carrying, Jason's reason of carrying, I think gun ownership has been on the rise for African Americans, and that's based upon whatever that person's reason is. But it's just showing from a number standpoint that it's increasing.
And that's primarily from what you've read with this current administration. Or did it begin before? Because I'm not sure.
It began before the current administration. Okay. But does it have anything to do with politics? Possibly. Politics rolls back down to everything. Mm-hmm. So.
What do you think about some of the shootings that's taken place that the media has, highlighted? Do you think that has caused an increase as well, as far as unarmed men being shot?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the concept is, if I'm going to die anyway, I don't have a gun on me, might as well go out and fight. Once again, when people adapt, people learn. Because, I mean, we've seen that, you can be the most nonviolent person in the world and still get shot. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, it's like,
if it's going to happen, I might as well go.
Yeah, if it's going to happen, I might as well have something on me. I might as well give you a real reason to shoot me, or at least to get a chance to defend my own life. I don't think there's anybody on the planet, any culture, anywhere, on any continent that sits back idly and says, okay, let's just get shot. Let's just get shot. You know what I'm saying? Nobody does that. Mm-hmm. Everybody responds in kind. I just think we live in a country that when Black people do something, everybody and mom get up in arms about it. Mm-hmm. We're not doing anything different from nobody else. Mm-hmm. It's just the stigma is different. Mm-hmm. So,
and it's highlighted more so.
Oh, absolutely highlighted. Mm-hmm. Every time a brother do something in this country, it's gonna make the news. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, I saw this recently. I think either Huffington Post or one of those places covered it. They talked about how many incidents of terrorism that were domestic at the hands of white men that didn't get covered by the media. Mm-hmm. And it was 4 or 5 incidents. One was at an airport. Dude almost blew up an airport at 6 a.m. But they stopped it. They diverted it. Mm-hmm. That should have made the news.
And nor do they use the term terrorism to describe it.
They never use the term terrorism.
Even though it is considered domestic terrorism.
Never. Absolutely. Because there were even several incidences after the Parkland where they had the blurb in the news or in the media, and then it kind of went away. But they were all non-colored people who were doing it. And terrorism, they just charged the young man in Parkland, I think, with the actual crime last week. And for a long time up to that, when I say from the incident happened, it probably was a whole week before they actually wanted to use the word terrorism with it. And it is. You go into a school, you go into any, schools are not even safe anymore. So you go into a school, you kill a group of people. If the scenario and the person was different, it would be terrorism. If a Muslim went into a building in downtown New York and started shooting people, it would be terrorism. But if a white person does it, it's not terrorism. Then you start digging through the layers of, oh, well, he may be suffering from alcohol fetal syndrome. Who gives a fuck? Seriously. Because there's something that happened. Who cares what he was suffering from?
Hello.
But I think that goes back to what Jason was saying as far as, and you mentioned it also, painting a narrative. So the media controls everything we see, we hear, and Jason, I don't have TV. I don't watch the news, I don't have TV. I have my stick, my fire stick.
I'm glad you clarified that. I have my stick. What kind of stick do you have, Sheneka?
Fire stick. Yeah. When I watch that, and that's on a weekend sometimes, because you're bombarded with all this imagery, and you have to understand that everybody else is bombarded with that imagery too. So they're watching the same thing you're watching, and that message that's being shown across all the outlets is that we are a danger. We are thugs. So they use that term thugs and gangsters. When they pull pictures, they will pull
the worst.
Yeah, the worst.
The mug shots.
Yeah, they will go through and pull a picture when you were 10 years old, dressed up.
Or a picture that you had on Facebook, where it may not be painting you in the right scene.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But for other people, it's their high school graduation picture. They're looking so
their college
innocent.
Graduation picture. Really?
Yeah.
But you
bar mitzvah.
You just killed 30 people.
Exactly. So the programming is real, and I think as just everyday people, we need to be aware of the content that we consume in our body. Turn the TV off. Turn the TV off, because it definitely is programming us.
Thank you. I think very few people have the ability to just look at their local community and see how they relate, because you're so busy watching what happened. That one time somebody did something stupid in, I don't know, Compton or New York, or look at black people and how they shoot it. Or, and you know what kills me? They always talk about Chicago when it comes to us and gun violence. They always talk about Chicago.
And Chicago isn't even the highest.
It's not.
It's not even
the highest. And it's funny because they'll talk about that, but then they never talk about how many nonprofit organizations against gun violence black people have started. It's one in every major city that's been done by black people. So it's not like we're just saying black, quote unquote, black on black crime and saying, oh, well, it just happens, black people shoot each other, whatever. No, we're doing something about it. But the news, the camera's never rolling in.
And let me give you some facts. You mentioned Harvard and Yale, where there not being any mass shootings. So Yale University is located in New Haven, Connecticut. And it's the city that I lived for 16 years. And New Haven it's known, or it has a reputation where it's called Pistol Waving New Haven. And if you probably Google any deadliest cities, New Haven is usually in the top 5.
Connecticut?
Okay. So Yale, this very prominent university, is encompassed around
gun violence. And you would never know that unless you dug for it, unless you look for it.
Yep.
That's why I don't take the news seriously.
And that's why you probably shouldn't. So to wrap this up, we came together to just discuss our views on gun ownership and how African Americans should view gun ownership, and just be knowledgeable in certain things, and don't take things for granted. What may be okay in one jurisdiction may not be okay in another jurisdiction, and know your rights, man. So, no, any other takeaways?
Nah, because I was going to go down a whole nother alley, but I think that's going to take us over. So, no.
Okay.
Mental health checkpoints, I'm perfectly okay with them. Every gun, that's just my thing. Like I said, with everything I had to go through to get my carry permit, I personally would have had no problem saying, okay, we'll see this doctor at this time or person who can give you a psych eval. I had no problem doing it.
And Jason, do you have anything too? Because I'm going to end with something else as well.
Or just work on your spirituality.
That's
it's way more powerful than a gun.
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't need a gun. If you know something wrong with you, don't get a gun.
Yeah, that's true.
Crazy folks don't know they crazy.
And the funny part about it is to go into the Army, you need all these evaluations, and one of them being psychological as well. And don't pass the psych evaluation, and you can't go into the Army.
True.
Oh, real quick. So, help me out. So when they're talking, I know 45 is talking about arming teachers in Florida. So I briefly recall when I was skimming through how that looks. There is all of this testing and training and all of this that the teachers have to have in order to carry. But again, it's not for the masses. Like, how do you slice and dice who gets psychological evaluations, who gets certain types of training, if you have citizens walking around with lethal weapons? I agree with you, Jason. There should be something a little more than you filling out paperwork before you're allowed to do that.
Hello.
I'm not listening to anything 45 says anyway. So what difference does it make? Because I saw it on social media where it's going to now be more instances of where Becky, the teacher, is going to be fearful of friggin' Tyrone. Becky's going to be fearful of Tyrone, the 17-year-old high school student. So Becky's people going to be getting killed at random in high schools, and they could just sit there and say, well, I feared.
I feared for my life.
And teachers should not be put in a situation where they should be required to carry guns. That's just my thought, bottom line. Now, if you want to increase police presence and all of that stuff, if you want to put metal detectors in, I don't care, whatever the gamut is. But teachers have always been from a standpoint of where they're supposed to be teaching and nurturing and providing support and all of that stuff. I saw this meme where a teacher now is supposed to have 50 million. They're supposed to be disciplinarian. They're supposed to be a parent. They're supposed to be a counselor. They're supposed to be a teacher. They're supposed to be all of this stuff. And now you want to put that they are supposed to carry a gun as well? Come on now. That don't even make sense. No. That don't make sense. So I think we're at the end of this particular podcast. I do want to just end by talking about, again, the National African American Gun Association. They're in Atlanta. If you're looking for more information, check them out. Their website is naaga.co. I thought that was a misprint. Thought it was .com, but it's not. It's .co. And you can become a membership.
How much is that? How much is it?
I think for an individual, it's like $29 annually. You get discounts to their events. And there are chapters all across the United States. Probably not in every state, but I know there are chapters all across the United States. So if you're interested in getting more versed in the area of gun ownership, go ahead and check them out. And I am so glad today that we had not one, but two males here to talk us through this subject. So, Jason, thank you for coming. And Joshua, thank you for coming as well.
Anytime.
Thanks for having us. Anytime.
So just to conclude, Real Talk with Pasha B supports art and those that create it. So if you are interested or you're looking for exposure, if you're an artist, whether that be spoken word, visual art, you paint, or you're a photographer, or if you're an author, we would love to showcase you on the website. So visit us, ordinarypeoplemedia.com. Hit us up on the Contact Us page, and we'll get you more information.
All right.
Did you see how I said that? No one's giving me props.
You sexy too, girl. You sexy.
Thank you.
I like how you said that.
All right. Thank you for tuning in, and talk to you next time. Peace.